We're back. We're installment number 4 now of our discussions about discipleship from the Book of Ruth. And apparently it's Cardigan Monday. Everybody should be wearing a cardigan. I hope you guys watching out there are wearing cardigans. So we took a little break for the weekend. Both of us have families and things going on. So we're just going to do, today we're going to do the whole of chapter 3, and then our next installment and our final installment for this study will be on chapter 4. So, Gerald, why don't you take it away and give us a synopsis?
Well, where we last left off was that Ruth was getting more acclimated to Naomi's family, meeting more of the people from her particular tribe. And she was starting to glean with the women, and she was reporting back to Naomi what was happening, and Naomi was just really affirming her. I believe that's the last thing we really talked about in terms of discipleship and the need for affirmation in our communities of faith. And so now we're still in the middle of that. We're going to begin kind of in that conversation where Ruth is reporting back to Naomi. And so we pick up in chapter 3. And I think, so in chapter 3, I think where it starts is Naomi, she shows concern. She shows her concern in her heart for Ruth. And she says, hey, should I not seek a home for you? I've got to find some place of rest for you. And since we're talking about discipleship, once again, I think we see the selflessness of Naomi. Like that really, she is Ruth. You know, she's not for Naomi. Because I think you talked about this concept a lot our web chat, where it was you cannot lord leadership over others. And so she says, hey, I got to seek out your best interests. I want to do what's right for you. And I think that leads us back again to the heart of discipleship in terms of if we are investing in someone, we're asking God, what's your heart for this individual? Not necessarily what's my heart, what do I think they should be? How could they serve me or my motives or my end game? But what's the place that God is calling this person to, and how can I help them find that or reach that place of where they need to be? But that's what I'm thinking here in this beginning.
You'll have to excuse us. It seems like we're having a little bit of difficulty with the internet connection again today. So just want to sum that up in one sentence, and hopefully we get that through.
Okay. Just say all of that again.
Yeah.
As discipling or investing in another person, you have to be for them. You can't be for yourself. And to be for them is meaning you're seeking God's best for them. And you're saying, hey, as I seek to lead you or help you navigate your journey, I'm looking for where God is taking you or where God is calling you, not where I think you should end up or where how I think you should be serving my motives. Because while there is a servant part to discipleship, I think too many take that model of Elijah and Elisha, like you got to chop my toenails in order to, to get what I want to invest into you. And I think this is good. Naomi's heart is for Ruth.
Yeah. Yeah. I think all discipleship has a goal in mind. Mm-hmm. If it's just some sort of like, okay, we're in this concrete relationship where I, as a discipler, are going to mold you as a disciple, but there's no like end game. There's no place, where are we going with this? Then it's not really a discipleship thing. It is a control issue. And so I think it's really important that, like you said, Naomi has Ruth's future in mind. She has, and she has a send-off plan, right? She's not just, okay, Ruth, one day you need to get married, but she's no, we need to get this plan in place and we're going to work towards it. So I think that's a really significant thing when it comes to discipleship.
Yeah. And I guess too, I think what I'm impressed by Naomi, another thing that impresses me about Naomi is, she's bitter, but yet she doesn't allow her bitterness to dampen her relationship with Ruth. She could be like, oh no, my husband is dead, my son is dead, I'm miserable, you gonna be miserable too.
I'm lonely, you're gonna be lonely. Right. Yeah.
But she says, hey, I want you to have, there's yet a whole lot of life for you to live. There's things for you to do.
Right.
And so she connects him with Boaz.
Yeah. So here's a couple things I noticed as well. So not only does she have a concrete goal in mind, but then she gives concrete instructions.
Strategy. Yeah.
So she says, for you to, move on to the next stage of your life, you need to go and do these things. So there's guidance, there's concrete instructions. It's not kind of ethereal, philosophical things that she's trying to, literally, these are the steps that you need to take in moving forward here.
Yeah. When Drew and I were in Bible college together at Elam, we were actually roommates, and I survived. So, it wasn't that bad of a deal. But there was a guy, Paul Johansson, who really did that for me. There was some things that I was trying to figure out and wrestle through what I was going to do, and just thinking, and and through that, I guess I had kind of had this idea that, it'll just come, it'll just happen. But I think Paul Johansson was the first person to help me realize it's okay to have a plan and to even put a timetable to it. And he would always say that you can never negotiate the vision, but you could always negotiate the time. And so here was a guy who gave me the gift of realizing, hey, you can put a plan in place. This is where you want to go. You know where you want to go. You got the vision. Now you got to back up here. And these are the steps that you need to take. And I think having him come alongside me in college really transformed the outlook of my life. Saying that it's okay to know that there's an end game, and then taking steps to, having concrete steps to plan. And so I think you make a valid point there that discipleship has an end game. It's a concrete end in mind, but there's also concrete steps and patterns and strategies how to get there.
Yeah. So I noticed that. I noticed the purpose for the goal for Ruth. I noticed that it was concrete. Here are the steps that we're going to take. Then there's the role of Ruth in this. Ruth goes out and does what Naomi tells her to do. Once again, I don't want to get too much on this thing of what you can and cannot do, or how, or controlling people, but but there is this submission that the disciple takes with the discipler, that is one of submission. I think we've lost your video. Oh, you're back.
I'm back, yeah. You froze. You said, I think we have this, and then it just froze. And so
let me see if I can recap. This is a difficult one with the internet connection. It's not a control thing, but there is a submission of Ruth walking through the instruction that was given to her. Discipleship doesn't work if there isn't that following of the instructions. There has to be a trust relationship with the disciple and the discipler, that allows the disciple to trust that this is going to work out to their benefit.
Yeah.
Right? This is going to be for their good. Likewise, the discipler has to have the good of the individual in mind. So Ruth then follows through with these instructions. I've heard a lot of teaching on this, the nature of kind of Ruth going in some ways possibly seducing Boaz and all of these kind of things. But in the cultural context and all of those kind of things, what essentially is happening is Naomi knows that Naomi knows that she's not going to be around forever.
Yeah.
Right? That Ruth needs to have a plan in place, because as soon as Naomi dies, Ruth is not part of these people, right? So she's disinherited. And if that's 10, 20 years down the road, she's going to be an old woman.
Yeah.
Who's going to take care of her? Who's going to, will she die a widow in a foreign land who just was respectful and caring for her mother-in-law? So that foresight of saying, I'm not going to be around forever, we need to take care of you, and then moving into that sends her into this position of, I need to find a husband, and here's the ways that within this culture that you're going to ingratiate yourself to Boaz as a husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
because
go ahead.
Because you have a lot of cultural things happening that Ruth has no idea about. But Naomi knows, because she grew up in that culture. She's a part of that culture. And so she gives Ruth some basic instructions, clear instructions on how to navigate that culture. And so I think too about these two things in discipleship. You have the discipler who knows something, they may not know it all, but they know something.
Right.
That's why they're and the disciple who knows something but needs to learn. That's why they're under the tutelage of the discipler. And so you have this thing where we've seen great initiative by Ruth throughout the whole book. Like, she isn't one that just sits down and says, tell me what to do, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
She's got some initiative, but here we also see her willing to be able to take instruction, and she realizes what she doesn't know. And I think that's an important attitude of when the Lord brings someone into our lives to help us in the journey, we have to be humble enough to recognize what we don't know. Okay, I don't know that. I need help in this area. And so it doesn't mean, because I don't know something, it doesn't mean that I'm dumb or stupid or incompetent. It just means I don't know what I don't know, but I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to have humility. But then for Naomi to give her those instructions and Ruth to follow through, here it is. Now she's helping Ruth navigate this cultural context. But I also love the fact too that what you said, the end game is Ruth's maturity, she's going to blossom into whatever God wants her to blossom in. And Naomi knows that her job is that of, I refer to John the Baptist, I'm going to decrease so that God might increase.
Yeah.
And that's something as a discipler, our job is to decrease our role, so to speak. If I can put that in the right context, you're not going to look to me for everything. My goal is to teach you to depend upon God. Yes, there's some interdependence. We have to depend on one another. We have to look for other people because we don't have it all within ourselves. But the end game is for you to be a mature believer, a mature person in Christ, if we're talking about discipleship.
Yeah.
I don't keep my 12-year-old in a high chair, still feeding them, making them dependent on me. No, I want you to eat.
Wait, I'm doing that wrong? My 14-year-old needs to be, dude, I've been chained in diapers for 14 years now. No, but I think that's exactly it. There has to be, let's look at, speaking of our own kids, there has to be a gradual growing up. We have this thing in our society now, right, called helicopter parents, right?
Yeah.
Parents are just hovering over kids' lives. They're controlling kids. And in some ways, it's fear, right? It's fear-based that our children it's a dangerous world out there, and I need to protect my children, right? And I can't trust anyone. I can't trust the doctors. I can't trust the coaches. I can't trust the teachers in schools, whatever it might be. And so parents helicopter over their kids, right? I can't trust my kids' friends. And, we do live in a dangerous world, and there are concerns. Like, I think it's not an irrational fear to say that there are elements out there that could be dangerous for my child.
Yeah.
But at some point, your child has to be able to navigate those things in your absence.
Absolutely.
Which means they have to be able to make mistakes. They have to be allowed to make mistakes. They have to be allowed to step out and make decisions on their own. And those decisions might be in the incorrect answer, right? But the goal of parenting is this kid. I was telling my kids when they're upset at me, my job is to make it so that you survive till adulthood.
Yeah.
And then I tell them things like, when you're 19 years old, if you're not in college, you're out of the house. Like, you're not staying.
Yeah.
And that should be really the attitude with the disciple and the discipler, in that my goal is for you to be mature in Christ, mature in the church, and so, and even, I'm going to be talking about this in church in a couple weeks, that you're being discipled so that you can in turn disciple.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can't take care of your own life, if you can't make decisions for your own life, if you're not independent in that regard, how can you go and teach it to somebody else?
Yeah.
And so as a discipler, that should be my goal. My goal should be I'm got to get you out of this nest. And that might mean I push you off the tree branch, and see if you can fly. But there has to be a move towards independence. And if interdependence is a long-term result or goal, this isn't discipleship, right?
Yeah.
So then that brings us to, okay, so we have this progression in the Ruth story, the guidance that here's how we're going to get you out of the nest. Here's how we're moving on to your goal in your life, to full maturity, all of those kind of things. Ruth goes, she spends the night at Boaz's feet. Boaz responds to her positively, says, I'm going to do for you what a kinsman should do. And he sends her home with some barley for Naomi. And here's the line. It's the last line in the chapter, and it really stuck out to me. So Ruth says, this is all that happened, and this is what's happened. So I'm handing these 6 ephahs of barley to you, so that you're not empty-handed. And then Naomi's words to her are, now sit still until you know how this matter is going to turn out.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of the discipler's job is now to take it from, okay, we've given the instruction. We've given concrete goals. You've gone out and done the things to move to the concrete goal. Now the discipler needs to disciple in the path of patience and peace. Every step we take along our road in life, whether it's, in our secular jobs or our world outside of the church, or whether it's in our spiritual walk, there comes this point when all the work is done. And then what's the next thing? Did you ever watch that movie, Rudy?
Yeah, yeah.
So Rudy, he wants to get into Notre Dame. He doesn't have the grades. He's not an exceptional athlete, but he wants to get into Notre Dame, and he wants to play Notre Dame football. He's too short. He's not fast enough, and his grades are terrible. So he goes and applies, and a priest says, well, if you really want to get in, what you should do is go to the community college across the street and get a couple semesters under your belt so they can see your grades and then transfer in. And so he does this, and each semester he applies, and each semester he gets denied. And he comes in one day, and he's sitting there, and the priest comes up to him and says, so what's going on? And he says, well, I've done everything. If I don't get in on this semester, I can't transfer any more credits. Like, yeah, I've maxed out. And the priest basically says, have you prayed? And then he's like, yeah, I've prayed, all these things. He said, then you've done everything you possibly could do. Now you just have to be patient, right? That's kind of the point of discipleship. After we've set the thing in motion, after goals are given, direct instructions are given, after those instructions are followed, to see the results in somebody's life, patience is necessary. And there's a point at which the disciple and the discipler need to enter into this state of wait and see what God is about to do.
Yeah. And, I think this is probably the most pivotal. This is the best thing she could learn from Naomi.
Yeah.
Because her statement, earlier on in the book was, your God is going to be my God. Your people are going to be my people. And I think what's key is, their relationship, the covenant people's relationship with God is through covenant. And, the underlying thing, I think, of the whole Old Testament is really that God is faithful. You see this thing of where God's people, they kind of turn their back. They do all of these things contrary, but yet God remains faithful to his people. And I think in the Book of Ruth, you have kind of this microcosmic story of the whole, thing of where, maybe Naomi and her family, they weren't faithful, and they said, we're going to bail out. But they hear of the faithfulness of God, and Naomi responds and says, we're going to go back. We're going to return because God has proven himself to be faithful.
Yeah.
And now he's teaching Ruth, hey, if you're really going to embrace this thing, it all rests on the faithfulness of God. And so, it's not this thing of where you don't do anything and you expect God to do everything, but it's where you do what you know to do. You take initiative and you do all the things that you know to do, all the while realizing that this rests upon God. It's going to be his faithfulness that I'm trusting in at the end of the day. And so, I think that is, that's such a thing that we can come back to in everyday life, that are we teaching people how to rest in the faithfulness of God? That even being an effective discipler doesn't rest on how many things I know or how skillful I am, although those things are important. Competency is important, but really trusting in who God is and his faithfulness, realizing that, what is the passage talks about, that it's vain for the watchman to stay up all night if God is not he's not the one watching, right?
Yeah.
It's in vain to build a house if God is not the builder. So I think here, if God is not at work, all of our work is in vain. But if we're working with God and trusting in his faithfulness, we can see something happen here.
Absolutely. You got anything else to add? I think that really encapsulates it all for us.
Yeah, I think so, bro.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to close, but you got anything to add?
No, man. I think that's good. Let's say to the viewers, I don't know how many people we actually have watching, but we'd love to hear feedback, negative and positive. If you'd like to, make comments on these videos, it would help us out. This is something we're thinking about continuing, we're planning to continue to do. It may take a little bit of a different direction after this, but we'd love to hear some feedback, what you think. what you think might be helpful, what we could do a little bit better. These are just kind of off the cuff. We just decided to do it kind of, on the fly. So love to hear from you on that, Tim.
Absolutely. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do one more video for the Book of Ruth. We're going to close out the Book of Ruth. We've actually, as of yesterday or today, we finished the Book of Ruth in the readings. And our next thing might not be about the daily office readings. Who knows? But keep your eyes open for what we're putting out. If you like it, if you're being blessed by this, if you think the information is good, share the video. Like Gerald said, post comments. Even if it's just a thumbs up, give us some reaction. So we'll see you guys next time.
Sweet. Peace, y'all.